You won't always get applause for your healing. You won't always get understanding, support, or recognition. Most of the time, true healing is invisible, quiet, almost secret, and that's exactly why it works. There will be seasons in your life where you withdraw, not because you're weak, not because you're broken beyond repair, but because your soul finally becomes honest with itself. It recognizes that healing doesn't happen in noise, comparison, or crowd approval. It happens in moments no one sees. In nights you stay awake with your thoughts. In mornings where you decide to try again, even though yesterday drained you. In whispers of courage that never become Instagram quotes or motivational speeches. You heal in private because the world is too loud to understand your quiet work. You shine in silence because real growth doesn't need validation, only patience. Think about the last time your emotions took over. Maybe you reacted so quickly that you later regretted the words you said. Maybe you let anger dictate your decisions. Maybe one moment of panic ruined an opportunity. Maybe someone's comment pulled you into overthinking for weeks. Emotional reactions are powerful. They can destroy peace in seconds. They can ruin relationships, careers, conversations, and confidence. And the worst part, the damage is often done long before you even realize you were triggered. Or maybe your chaos was quieter. Maybe you didn't explode, you imploded. You shut down, you withdrew, you emotionally disconnected without even meaning to. Silent chaos is just as dangerous as loud chaos. It steals your energy, your focus, and your clarity while keeping your face calm enough for everyone to assume you're fine. Healing begins when you finally admit, I'm tired of carrying this pain. I'm tired of reacting before thinking. I'm tired of pretending I'm okay when I'm not. This audiobook is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally sovereign. It's about being in charge of your reactions instead of being controlled by them. It's about learning that privacy is not isolation. It's protection. And silence is not emptiness. It's strategy. Across this audiobook, you'll uncover the truth that the strongest people often heal alone, not because they want to, but because their inner work requires a level of depth most people aren't willing to understand. You'll learn how emotional chaos destroys inner stability, how detachment gives you power without making you cold, and how discipline strengthens your spirit far beyond motivation. You'll see how breath, biology, and body language shape your calmness and how your environment affects your emotional energy more than you realize. You'll explore the art of rebuilding yourself quietly without announcing every battle, every breakthrough, or every trauma you survived. Because the truth is, your glow hits different when nobody saw the darkness you had to walk through to find it. Healing privately teaches you self-respect. Shining quietly teaches you self-mastery. You'll gain a new understanding of resilience, not as something dramatic or heroic, but as the simple act of choosing yourself again and again, even when your confidence has been shaken. You'll learn techniques for separating feeling from action, so you no longer obey every fear, every impulse, every insecurity. You'll uncover the power of silence, patience, boundaries, and emotional maturity. Most importantly, you'll learn how to navigate life with a calm that doesn't need to be performed and strength that doesn't need to be posted. By the end of this audiobook, you'll understand how emotional control leads to strength, peace, and self-respect. You'll see how healing in private builds character and shining in silence builds quiet authority. If you're ready to begin this journey, if you're ready to reclaim your peace, protect your energy, and rebuild yourself quietly, then let's begin. Oh, subscribe to Evoke Audiobooks for more daily audiobooks on mindset and self-growth. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Hidden Wounds You Heal Alone. There are wounds you don't tell anyone about, not because you want to hide them, but because words are too small to hold the weight of what you felt. Some experiences leave marks that are deeper than bruises, quieter than scars, and more painful than memories. These are the wounds you carry alone, not because you're weak, but because no one else was there when they were created, and no one else would truly understand them if you tried to explain. Healing begins not with sharing your pain, but with recognizing it. And in the quiet moments of your life, those nights when the world is asleep and all the distractions fade, you can finally see the parts of you that hurt. These hidden wounds often come from places you never expected. People you loved, moments you trusted, futures you planned for, and versions of yourself you once believed in. Some wounds come from childhood, where silence was the only language you knew, and survival meant pretending. You learned early that expressing hurt could make things worse, that speaking up might lead to conflict, and that being emotional was a burden others didn't want to carry. So you built quiet habits of self-protection, staying calm even when you were breaking inside, smiling even when you didn't feel okay, and being strong even when nobody asked you to be. Other wounds are born in adulthood, where expectations rise and empathy falls, where mistakes are counted loudly, but your efforts go unnoticed, where you give love without receiving it back, where trust is broken without apology, where people leave without explanation, where opportunities disappear before you can grab them, where you stand in rooms full of people and still feel unseen. Not all pain is violent. Sometimes it's a slow erosion, a gradual fading of self-worth, bit by bit, moment by moment, until one day you look at yourself and wonder where you lost the version of you that once felt whole. These wounds don't bleed, but they drain you. They don't scar, but they shape you. They don't scream, but they echo. And because these wounds are quiet, your healing must be quiet too. When you start healing alone, the first thing you feel is confusion. You wonder why it still hurts, why you can't simply move on, why certain memories still trigger you even after so much time. But healing is not forgetting. It's understanding. It's acknowledging that what hurt you was real and that your response was human. You don't have to justify your pain. You don't need permission to feel what you feel. You only need honesty. Honesty with yourself is the foundation of private healing. When you sit alone with your thoughts, you hear your heart speak without interruption. It tells you truths you've been avoiding, truths about relationships, self-worth, mistakes, boundaries, patterns, and hopes. It tells you what fell apart, why it hurt, and what it cost you. It reveals the parts of you that broke because you cared, because you tried, because you stayed, because you believed. In private, your wounds introduce themselves. Some say, "I come from abandonment." Others say, "I come from betrayal." Some say, "I come from words you never should have heard," while others whisper, "I come from the silence you didn't deserve." Healing alone gives you space to listen to these wounds without judgment. And slowly something begins to change. You start realizing that not everyone deserves access to your pain. Not everyone has earned the right to hear your story. Not everyone has the emotional maturity to hold your vulnerability gently. And that's when you learn a powerful truth. Healing is sacred, and sacred things are protected, not shared. People often say you don't have to go through it alone. But what they don't understand is that some lessons require solitude. Some transformations demand privacy. Some healing only works when the noise fades and the world stops influencing your heart. Healing alone isn't loneliness, it's alignment. It's you returning to yourself after being disconnected for too long. It's you understanding that closure isn't given by others. It's created within. It's you letting go of the versions of yourself you became just to survive. It's you finally breathing without fear, crying without shame, and rebuilding without an audience. As you do this, you begin to see patterns, situations you kept repeating, people you kept choosing, habits you kept justifying, emotions you kept ignoring. You realize some wounds were not accidents. They were consequences of boundaries you never learned to set, standards you lowered, or red flags you rationalized. But healing is not about blaming yourself. It's about freeing yourself. Private healing teaches you to let go of narratives that kept you stuck. It teaches you that you don't have to stay loyal to people who hurt you, loyal to situations that drain you, or loyal to identities that no longer fit you. You learn the difference between holding on and holding yourself back. Soon, your solitude becomes a sanctuary, not a place of sadness, but a place of clarity. A place where you rebuild your emotional architecture, stronger, wiser, calmer. You begin to see yourself not as a damaged person, but as someone who survived more than most people know. Someone who chose healing even when it was hard. Someone who stayed soft even when they were hurt. Someone who continued loving even after being wounded. The world will never understand how many times you saved yourself in silence. They will never see the nights you held your emotions together. They will never know the conversations you had with yourself. They will never feel the storms you weathered alone. They will never witness the inner battles you fought quietly. But one day they will see the glow. One day they will feel the calm around you. One day they will notice the strength in your presence. One day they will admire the peace that surrounds you. That shine will not be loud. It will not be boastful. It will not beg to be seen. It will be the natural result of a soul that healed where no one was looking. That is the beauty of hidden wounds. When you heal them privately, they transform into silent power. You become more grounded, more centered, and more emotionally aware. Not because life became easier, but because you became wiser. This chapter is the beginning of your journey inward, the journey of seeing what hurts, understanding why it hurts, and learning that healing doesn't always require witnesses. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is close the door, sit with yourself, and begin. Healing alone doesn't mean you're isolated. It means you've chosen to grow without noise, distractions, or applause. It means you're ready to rebuild your heart with intention instead of reaction. In the quiet, you discover something you had forgotten. You are capable of healing. You are capable of changing. You are capable of becoming whole again. And that journey, private, silent, sacred, is where your new strength begins. Chapter 2: The Strength of Silent Recovery. There is a unique kind of strength that grows only in silence. Not the silence of avoidance, not the silence of fear, but the silence of rebuilding. The silence where you stop explaining yourself, stop defending your pain, stop justifying your emotions, and simply begin the work of becoming whole again. Silent recovery is not a retreat from the world, it is a return to yourself. Most people misunderstand silence. They think silence means weakness, passivity, or surrender. They assume that if you're quiet about your hurt, then you must not be hurting. If you're quiet about your healing, then you must not be healing. But the truth is this: silence is often the language of people who are growing. People who choose to heal from the inside out instead of the outside in. People who know that noisy recovery may get attention, but silent recovery builds transformation. Silent recovery is powerful because it protects the process. Growth that is constantly exposed to opinions, judgment, or comparison loses its purity. When too many people have access to your healing, they unknowingly influence it. Some will minimize your pain. Some will exaggerate it. Some will project their own fears onto your journey. And some, intentionally or not, will interrupt the very progress you are trying to make. When you heal silently, you guard your progress the way a seed is protected underground, hidden but never inactive, quiet but always growing. Think about a seed. It does not break through the soil instantly. It does not announce its transformation. It does not brag about its process. In the darkness, under pressure, surrounded by silence, it slowly builds its strength. It grows roots before it grows leaves. It becomes stable before it becomes visible. And only when it's ready does it push upward into the world. This is the essence of silent recovery. You grow deeper before you grow brighter. You find stability before you seek visibility. You repair the unseen before you reveal the transformed. The early stages of healing are delicate. You're vulnerable. Your emotions are raw. Your mind is fragile. Your heart is unsure. In this stage, one careless comment, one misunderstanding, one moment of judgment can derail days' worth of inner work. That's why silent recovery is not isolation. It is emotional intelligence. It is the understanding that the most fragile phases of healing need protection, not exposure. There are parts of healing that require solitude because they require honesty. You cannot be fully honest in front of people who expect you to be strong or balanced or fine. You cannot be fully honest around people who misunderstand your quiet as distance. Silent recovery creates a safe space where you can admit your fears, confront your mistakes, grieve your losses, and explore your emotions without being rushed or misinterpreted. And in this silence, something powerful happens. You hear yourself clearly for the first time in a long time. The noise of the world no longer drowns your intuition. The expectations of others no longer overshadow your needs. The pressure to perform, pretend, or please dissolves. In silence, you finally meet yourself, the version of you that existed before the pain, before the heartbreak, before the disappointment, before the world demanded that you toughen up. Silent recovery gives you permission to soften internally while strengthening yourself externally. It allows you to feel deeply without collapsing, to acknowledge wounds without amplifying them, to rebuild slowly without losing dignity. One of the most misunderstood aspects of healing is that people expect you to bounce back. Society praises speed, fast comebacks, quick recoveries, instant resilience. But real strength doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it doesn't perform healing for anyone else's comfort. Silent recovery honors the pace your soul needs. You don't bounce back from deep wounds, you grow back. And growth takes time. Silent recovery teaches you that healing is not a race. You don't need to be ahead of anyone. You don't need to match anyone's timeline. You don't need to prove your progress. The only thing you need is commitment to your peace, your clarity, and your emotional stability. Some days recovery will feel like progress. Other days it will feel like stillness. Both are essential. Stillness isn't stagnation, it's integration. It's your heart absorbing the lessons, your mind rearranging the truths, your soul rebalancing itself. Healing isn't a straight line. It's a quiet spiral that takes you inward before it brings you upward. In silent recovery, you also learn the power of emotional responsibility. You begin to understand what is yours to carry and what isn't. You stop blaming yourself for other people's actions. You stop absorbing their emotions. You stop feeling guilty for their disappointment. You stop carrying burdens that were never yours. Silent recovery clarifies the boundaries between what hurt you and what you must let go of. This clarity is one of the greatest strengths you gain from healing in silence. When you are no longer distracted by outside voices, you can finally see your patterns clearly. Why you stayed too long, why you accepted too little, why you ignored red flags, why you repeated certain choices. This awareness doesn't break you, it frees you. It gives you the tools to stop repeating old cycles and start creating new paths. Silent recovery also builds self-trust. When you heal without leaning on constant validation, you learn to rely on yourself. You learn to listen to your inner voice. You learn to trust your judgment. You learn that you can survive, adapt, improve, and rise without needing applause or reassurance. You become your own safe space. And this self-trust becomes the foundation for everything else. Your decisions, relationships, boundaries, confidence, and peace. When you trust yourself, the world cannot shake you easily. People cannot manipulate your emotions. Situations cannot destabilize your spirit. You become anchored, not in your circumstances, but in yourself. Silent recovery also strengthens your emotional discipline. You learn to respond instead of react, to pause instead of panic, to observe instead of absorb, to let go instead of cling. You begin to realize that emotional control is not about suppressing feelings. It's about mastering the space between what you feel and what you do. In that space, your strength is born. Another gift of silent recovery is the understanding that not everyone deserves access to your transformation. Not everyone deserves to know the details of your pain, the timeline of your healing, or the depth of your growth. Some people want information not to help you, but to measure you, to compare, to judge, to gossip, or to feel superior. Silence protects you from these people. It creates emotional distance long enough for you to distinguish who cares from who is curious. And when you finally emerge from silent recovery, you do not return as the same person who disappeared. You return calmer, wiser, and stronger. People may notice that you don't react the way you used to. They may notice that you carry yourself differently. They may notice that your energy has changed, that you've become more selective, more intentional, more grounded. They won't know what happened and they don't need to. Your transformation will speak for itself. Silent recovery changes your relationship with the world. You're no longer desperate for attention, reassurance, or validation. You no longer seek closure from others because you've learned to give it to yourself. You no longer chase chaos because peace finally feels like home. You no longer react to every emotion, opinion, or situation because you've built a calm that nothing external can easily disturb. Silent recovery is not about going unnoticed. It's about going unshaken. It's about building a strength so steady that no one even realizes how powerful you've become until your presence speaks louder than your words ever could. This strength isn't loud, it isn't dramatic, it isn't performative. It is quiet, deep, and unbreakable. And it all begins in the silence where you choose to heal. Chapter 3. Protecting your peace from the world. There comes a point in healing where you realize something essential. The world will not protect your peace for you. People will not always handle your heart gently. Life will not always give you quiet days. Circumstances will not always bend to your emotional stability. If you want peace, you must learn to guard it, intentionally, consistently, and sometimes fiercely. Protecting your peace is not selfishness. It is self-preservation. It is emotional maturity. It is the recognition that your inner world matters just as much as the outer one. Most people grow up being taught how to achieve, how to impress, how to endure, but not how to protect their emotional well-being. So they enter adulthood fragile, exposed, and uncertain. They walk through life absorbing every opinion, reacting to every comment, carrying everyone's burdens, trying to fix every problem and losing themselves little by little in the process. This is why people burn out, why they become anxious, why they overthink, why they feel drained after simple interactions, why they keep repeating painful cycles. Because no one taught them the truth. Peace is a boundary, not a gift, not a personality trait, not luck, a boundary. And boundaries don't set themselves. You learn to protect your peace the day you finally get tired. Tired of being overwhelmed. Tired of being emotionally available to everything and everyone. Tired of letting your mind get hijacked by situations that never deserved your energy in the first place. The day you decide that your inner calm is worth defending is the day your life quietly begins to change. Protecting your peace starts with a simple shift in awareness. Not everything deserves a reaction. The world is full of provocations, small ones, big ones, deliberate ones, accidental ones. Someone speaks to you with impatience. Someone misunderstands your intentions. Someone throws a careless comment. Someone questions your worth. Someone tests your boundaries. Someone triggers an old wound. Not every moment like this requires a fight. Not every situation deserves your emotional investment. Not every person is worth explaining yourself to. Peace begins where reactivity ends. When someone tries to pull you into unnecessary drama, your peace says, "Not today." When someone disrespects you, your peace says, "I will respond with clarity, not chaos." When someone tries to guilt you, your peace says, "Your emotions are not my responsibility." When someone tries to control you, your peace says, "I choose my own energy." When life throws stress at you, your peace says, "I am calmer than the situation." But this ability to choose peace in the presence of chaos comes only after you understand what threatens your peace in the first place. There are four major sources of emotional disturbance: people, environments, memories, and expectations. And your peace is only as strong as your boundaries with all four. Let's begin with people. Some people bring calmness into your life simply by existing. Others bring turbulence, even when they don't mean to. And then there are those who drain you just by being in the same room, because their presence carries chaos that spills into your life. You protect your peace by learning to identify who feeds you and who bleeds you. Not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your vulnerability, your attention, or your emotional energy. You don't have to explain why you're distancing yourself from someone who is draining you. Peace doesn't need justification, it only needs protection. And protecting your peace doesn't always mean cutting people off. Often it simply means repositioning them. You can love someone and love them from a distance. You can care for someone without letting them control your emotions. You can support someone without sacrificing your mental clarity. You can forgive someone without allowing them back into your inner circle. Peace doesn't demand exile, just boundaries. Next, we look at environments. Some places drain you without speaking. They suffocate your creativity, pressure your emotions, or overwhelm your senses. These environments may be temporary: your workplace, social gatherings, certain homes, or they may be places you've outgrown emotionally. Protecting your peace means recognizing when a space is too loud for your heart and too heavy for your mind. You don't need to stay in environments that harm your well-being. You don't need to endure spaces that shrink your spirit. You don't need to remain in rooms where your presence is tolerated but not valued. Your peace deserves better environments, even if it means walking away quietly. Then come the memories. Old wounds have a way of resurfacing when life slows down. A sound, a scent, a phrase, a moment. Anything can trigger a memory that pulls you backward emotionally. These memories are not weaknesses, they are unresolved stories. You protect your peace by acknowledging them, processing them, and refusing to let them dictate your present reality. You remind yourself, "I am no longer who I was when this happened. I have permission to outgrow old pain. I can choose peace even in the presence of memory." Finally, expectations. Expectations, both yours and others, are one of the greatest threats to peace. You suffer when you expect people to behave in ways they are incapable of. You suffer when you expect life to always be fair, predictable, or kind. You suffer when you expect yourself to be strong every day. Expectations create invisible pressure. They turn peace into a battlefield. You protect your peace by lowering expectations, not standards. Standards are about self-respect. Expectations are about control. You can maintain high standards for how you want to be treated, but you must release the expectation that others will always meet them. Once you understand the sources of disturbance, your peace becomes something you guard actively. You start making decisions differently, not based on fear, guilt, people-pleasing, or habit, but based on what strengthens you internally. Protecting your peace often looks like choosing silence over defending yourself, choosing rest over social pressure, choosing distance over disrespect, choosing boundaries over exhaustion, choosing honesty over pleasing, choosing solitude over noise, choosing emotional neutrality over reactivity. Ah, and sometimes protecting your peace means disappointing people. It means saying no. It means being misunderstood. It means walking away from conversations that aren't going anywhere. It means letting people think what they want. It means giving up the need to be liked. It means outgrowing relationships that require you to shrink yourself. Peace requires courage. Peace requires discipline. Peace requires letting go. You cannot protect your peace and still be owned by the world. There will be people who get upset when you set boundaries because they benefited from your lack of them. There will be moments when choosing yourself makes others uncomfortable. There will be times when your silence is misinterpreted as weakness, when in reality it is wisdom. And here is a truth you must carry with you. Peace will cost you certain people, places, habits, and versions of yourself, but the absence of peace costs you everything. When you learn to protect your peace, you begin living differently. Your priorities change, your pace changes, your thoughts become clearer, your emotions become lighter, your presence becomes calmer. You stop absorbing negativity. You stop explaining your choices. You stop allowing chaos to rent space in your mind. You start choosing a softer life, not because you can't handle the world, but because you don't want the world to handle you. You become intentional. You become selective. You become emotionally sovereign. And people start noticing, not because you're loud, but because you're no longer shaken by the things that used to disturb you. Protecting your peace is not a moment. It is a lifestyle. It is the highest form of emotional maturity. It is the quiet shield that allows your internal healing to continue undisturbed. Because once your peace is protected, your healing becomes unstoppable. Chapter 4. When solitude becomes power. Most people fear being alone because they never learn the difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness hurts because it is the absence of others. Solitude strengthens because it is the presence of yourself. And once you experience true solitude, not the kind that feels like abandonment, but the kind that feels like clarity, you begin to understand that it is one of the most powerful states a human being can enter. Solitude is not silence. Solitude is not sadness. Solitude is not emptiness. Solitude is space, sacred space, where your mind breathes, your emotions settle, and your soul recalibrates. The world teaches you to stay busy, stay connected, stay available, stay responsive. It conditions you to equate constant interaction with importance, constant communication with relevance, constant company with happiness. But none of these things are true. Being surrounded does not guarantee connection. Talking endlessly does not guarantee understanding. And having someone beside you does not guarantee peace. Solitude is where you discover that peace exists within you long before it exists around you. You begin to understand solitude when you realize how much of your life has been shaped by noise. Noise from society telling you who to be. Noise from family telling you what is right. Noise from friends influencing your decisions. Noise from comparison stealing your joy. Noise from the past haunting your mind. Noise from your own insecurities, whispering fears into your thoughts. Solitude is the moment you turn all of that down, not forever, but long enough to hear yourself clearly. The power of solitude begins with clarity. When you step away from the world, even briefly, you see your life without distortion. You see who matters and who doesn't. You see what drains you and what nourishes you. You see which habits strengthen you and which destroy you. You see what you've been avoiding, suppressing, or rationalizing. Solitude holds up a mirror, not to your flaws, but to your truth. It shows you the parts of yourself you abandoned while trying to be everything for everyone. It reveals the dreams you silenced, the boundaries you ignored, the emotions you suppressed, the identities you outgrew. In solitude, the illusions fall away. You are left with authenticity, raw, honest, uncompromising authenticity. And this authenticity is where your power begins. When you stop running from yourself, you stop running from life. When you learn to sit with your thoughts, you learn to understand them. When you face your emotions in solitude, you no longer fear them in public. When you grow alone, you stop depending on others for validation. Solitude is where self-reliance grows, not the cold kind that rejects help, but the grounded kind that says, I can stand on my own, and I choose wisely who stands with me. There is a moment in healing that can only happen in solitude, the moment you stop seeking closure from the person who hurt you and begin giving it to yourself. The moment you stop waiting for apologies and start accepting reality. The moment you stop replaying what happened and start rewriting your inner world. This shift is not loud. It happens quietly, almost unnoticeably, like dawn breaking into a dark room. And once it happens, you no longer chase clarity from outside sources. You become your own clarity. Solitude also strengthens emotional endurance. When you spend time alone, you learn to handle your feelings without rushing to distractions. You learn to process sadness without collapsing, to manage stress without spiraling, to experience joy without needing approval. You become emotionally independent, not detached, not cold, but steady. This steadiness becomes your anchor in a chaotic world. It becomes the part of you that cannot be shaken easily, the part that pauses before reacting, the part that responds with intention rather than impulse. You stop giving people remote control access to your emotions because you've learned how to regulate your inner world on your own. But solitude is not only about emotional healing, it's also about rediscovering your inner resources. In solitude, creativity awakens. Ideas flow without interruption. Imagination expands. You reconnect with forgotten passions. You remember what excites you. You rediscover the version of yourself that existed before responsibilities, disappointments, or heartbreak dulled your spirit. Great thinkers, artists, leaders, and visionaries throughout history sought solitude intentionally, not because they rejected the world, but because they understood that the world often becomes too noisy to think clearly. Solitude is where they shaped ideas, cultivated discipline, and strengthened character. And the same is true for you. Solitude sharpens focus. It builds discipline. It enhances self-awareness. It strengthens your intuition. It allows you to see your future without the fog of others' opinions. It teaches you what you want and, equally important, what you no longer want. Solitude is a reset button for the soul. But to reach this power, you must cross a threshold. You must learn to be comfortable with your own company. Many people fear solitude because when they are alone, their mind becomes loud. Their unresolved emotions rise to the surface. Their buried pain demands attention. Their insecurities start speaking. Their regrets show up. This is not a sign of weakness. This is the beginning of healing. The discomfort you feel is your inner world asking to be acknowledged. Solitude doesn't cause these emotions, it reveals them. And in revealing them, it gives you the chance to work through them. If you run from solitude, you run from yourself. If you embrace solitude, you reclaim yourself. And reclaiming yourself is the heart of healing. At some point, you will notice something shift. What once felt uncomfortable now feels peaceful. What once triggered anxiety now brings clarity. What once felt like emptiness now feels like spaciousness. Solitude becomes something you look forward to, not because you want to escape the world, but because you no longer want to escape yourself. This is when solitude becomes power, when you can sit alone and feel grounded, when you can enjoy your own presence, when your inner world becomes nurturing instead of painful, when you realize that you are enough for yourself. This power changes everything. It transforms the way you connect with others. It removes desperation from your relationships. It ends people-pleasing. It eliminates clinginess. It strengthens boundaries. It creates emotional availability without emotional dependency. When you've built strength in solitude, you stop choosing people out of fear of being alone. You start choosing people out of alignment, out of respect, out of peace, out of genuine connection. Solitude gives you the ability to walk away from anything that threatens your well-being because you are no longer afraid of being on your own. You know that solitude is not punishment, it is protection. And most importantly, solitude reminds you that your peace does not depend on external conditions. You carry it within. You cultivate it within. You protect it within. Solitude turns your inner world into a sanctuary, a place you can always return to no matter how chaotic the outside world becomes. The more time you spend in solitude, the more you'll notice your spirit becoming quieter, your decisions becoming clearer, your reactions becoming calmer, and your self-respect becoming stronger. You begin to trust the silence because it no longer feels like absence. It feels like presence, your own presence. And in that presence, you discover a truth that will guide the rest of your life. You are never truly alone when you are deeply connected to yourself. Solitude doesn't take power from you. It restores it, it refines it, it returns it. And once you have tasted that power, you will never again fear the quiet. Because now you understand. Solitude is not where you lose yourself. It is where you find yourself so fully that you will never again lose yourself to the world. Chapter 5. Quiet Growth, Loud Results. Growth has a strange way of working. For a long time, nothing seems to change. You question yourself, you doubt your progress. You wonder if the silence means failure. You look in the mirror and see the same face, the same habits, the same fears. You check your life and notice the same routines, the same obstacles, the same emotions. Growth feels invisible, almost non-existent. And then one day everything is different. Not loudly, not dramatically, not suddenly, but undeniably. People start treating you differently. Opportunities start appearing. Conversations feel different. Your reactions become calmer. Your choices become wiser. Your presence becomes stronger. Your energy becomes quieter, but heavier, more grounded, more respected. This is quiet growth, the kind of transformation that happens in shadow, in silence, in the places no one sees. The kind that feels slow, almost frustrating, but ultimately builds a version of you powerful enough to reshape your entire life. Quiet growth is the most authentic form of growth because it is driven by internal changes, not external validation. You're not growing to prove anything. You're not growing to impress anyone. You're not growing because the world is watching. You're growing because you're finally tired of the cycles you used to tolerate. You're growing because your soul is demanding evolution. You're growing because staying the same would cost you too much. Quiet growth begins the day you choose intention over impulse. That single choice, one tiny shift, begins a ripple effect through your entire life. You start responding instead of reacting. You start thinking before speaking. You start pausing before engaging. You start recognizing what drains you and what nourishes you. You start noticing patterns you once ignored. You start becoming aware. Awareness is the soil of quiet growth. Discipline is the water. Peace is the sunlight. And the results, They arrive like a harvest, unexpected, overwhelming, and beautifully timed. For a long time, your growth feels lonely. You feel like no one understands what you're working on. People might notice that you're quieter, more selective, less reactive. They may say you've changed. They may say you've become distant. They may not understand your withdrawal, your solitude, or your new boundaries. But quiet growth is often misunderstood growth. You are evolving internally long before the world sees anything externally. And that's the point. Quiet growth protects you from premature exposure. If you expose growth too early, you risk criticism that can damage your momentum. If you share changes too soon, you invite opinions that can confuse your direction. Silence becomes a protective layer, like the skin forming over a new wound. It may look small from the outside, but inside, it is rebuilding everything. Quiet growth is often invisible because it takes the form of micro-decisions, tiny acts of emotional maturity, subtle shifts in thinking, small acts of discipline repeated daily. You begin choosing sleep over scrolling, water over soda, movement over laziness, honesty over avoidance, boundaries over guilt, purpose over pleasure, focus over distraction, solitude over noise, calm over chaos, long-term peace over momentary comfort. None of these actions make noise individually, but collectively, they create transformation. Growth is less about doing big things and more about doing small things consistently. The world celebrates dramatic pivots, but your life is shaped by invisible habits. What you do, think one day, and prioritize when no one is watching. The reason quiet growth leads to loud results is because it builds foundation. And foundations are rarely glamorous, but they hold everything together. When you grow quietly, you strengthen roots. And roots are what give trees the power to withstand storms. Quiet growth also teaches you emotional neutrality. You become less attached to highs and less threatened by lows. When things go well, you remain steady. When things fall apart, you remain grounded. This emotional neutrality becomes one of your greatest strengths. It gives you the ability to act with clarity instead of panic, to choose logic without losing empathy, to move forward without being dragged around by emotions. Quiet growth also transforms your relationship with time. When you heal privately, when you grow internally, you begin understanding the truth. Not everything requires urgency. Not everything needs to be rushed. Not everything has to happen now. You stop forcing things. You stop chasing things. You stop holding on to things that are clearly slipping away. You stop exhausting yourself trying to speed up processes that require patience. You realize that growth has a pace, and it's not the pace of the world. It's the pace of your soul. Quiet growth teaches you patience. Not the passive kind that waits helplessly, but the powerful kind that waits intentionally. The kind that says, I'm building something inside me that the world cannot see yet, but I know it will change everything. And it will, because quiet growth leads to loud clarity. Suddenly you know who you are. Suddenly you know what you want. Suddenly you know what you will and will not tolerate. Suddenly you know which paths align with you. Suddenly you stop second-guessing your intuition. Suddenly your decisions have weight. This clarity is loud, not in volume but in impact. It shapes your life in ways you never experienced before. You start gravitating toward peace naturally. You start rejecting chaos effortlessly. You start setting boundaries confidently. You start valuing your time intentionally. You start choosing relationships with discernment. You start protecting your energy instinctively. You stop trying to be understood by everyone and start becoming aligned with yourself. This alignment is loud. It shifts your energy. It alters your presence. It shapes your reality. People begin noticing the results. They may not know what changed, but they feel the change. They feel the calm in your voice, They feel the assurance in your decisions. They feel the strength in your silence. They feel the boundary in your absence. Quiet growth makes you powerful in ways noise never could. But here's what people rarely acknowledge. Quiet growth also comes with grief. Because as you evolve internally, you outgrow externally. You outgrow certain people, habits, conversations, environments, and even old versions of yourself. This outgrowing is not dramatic. It's subtle, but it is real. You may feel lonely at times. You may feel misunderstood. You may feel like you're walking away from everything familiar. But this is the price of evolution. Growth requires leaving behind what can't grow with you. Quiet growth also teaches you that success is not always visible. Sometimes success looks like choosing not to respond, choosing to walk away, choosing to stay calm, choosing to rest, choosing to forgive, choosing to let go, choosing to begin again. Quiet victories count. Quiet strength counts. Quiet discipline counts. Quiet resilience counts. Your transformation may be invisible now, but it is building momentum. It is preparing you. It is shaping you into a version of yourself capable of handling blessings, opportunities, relationships, and responsibilities that your older self could not. Quiet growth builds capacity. Loud results reveal it. And the day will come, quietly but undeniably, when everything inside you aligns so deeply that your life begins to shift externally. You will wake up and realize that you are no longer the person who was hurting, no longer the person who was lost, no longer the person who was fragile, no longer the person who doubted themselves. You will be someone new, stronger, wiser, calmer, and more grounded. And the world will finally see what solitude, discipline, and silence have been building behind the scenes. That is the beauty of quiet growth. You don't notice it happening, but everyone notices when it's done. Chapter 6: The Discipline of Private Healing. Healing is often described as emotional, spiritual, or psychological work. But what most people never realize is that healing is also discipline. Quiet, unseen, uncelebrated discipline, the kind that requires consistency on days when motivation is nowhere to be found, the kind that demands self-control when emotions want to take over, the kind that asks you to choose long-term peace over momentary impulses. Private healing is not just about feeling better, it's about training yourself to live better. When people think of discipline, they imagine routines, goals, or physical habits. But emotional discipline is far more difficult than any fitness regimen or productivity system. Anyone can force themselves to wake up early for a week. Only a few can stop responding to triggers they've reacted to for years. Only a few can choose silence over proving themselves. Only a few can resist old patterns that feel comforting but destructive. Only a few can control their emotional impulses long enough to create real change. Quote, "This is why your healing must be private, because discipline grows best when it is not being watched." When you are healing privately, you're not performing. You're not explaining your progress. You're not updating anyone. You're not seeking approval. You're simply doing the work. Quietly, consistently, imperfectly, secretly, and this secrecy protects your discipline from being interrupted. Private healing begins with the discipline of awareness. You start catching your emotional habits, not after you've acted on them, but the moment they arise. You notice the beginning of irritation. You notice the spark of insecurity. You notice the slight pull of overthinking. You notice the early signs of anxiety. You notice the familiar urge to explain yourself unnecessarily. You notice the old patterns that once controlled you. Awareness is not a reaction. It is a discipline. And it often feels exhausting because your mind is learning to slow down, observe, reflect, and choose differently. The second discipline of private healing is restraint, learning to pause. You don't realize how impulsive you've been until you start practicing silence, the urge to defend yourself, to respond instantly, to fill gaps with explanations, to react emotionally. These urges feel powerful because they are trained behaviors, and unlearning them requires internal resistance. The pause is uncomfortable at first. You feel like you're losing. You feel like you're letting people get away with things. You feel like you're not standing up for yourself. But slowly you begin to understand a truth most people never discover. Restraint is power in its purest form. Anyone can react, anyone can argue, anyone can explode. But it takes discipline to stay calm. It takes strength to respond intentionally. It takes wisdom to choose silence. Your silence is not weakness, it is control. Your pause is not surrender, it is strategy. Your restraint is not fear, it is emotional mastery. The third discipline of private healing is consistency. This is where most people fail, not because they don't want to heal, but because healing doesn't deliver instant rewards. There are no applause, no certificates, no visible milestones. It's easy to stay consistent with things the world praises. It's much harder to stay consistent with things only you know you're doing. Consistency means showing up for yourself, even when you don't feel like it. It means sticking to emotional boundaries even when you miss someone. It means avoiding old environments even when you feel lonely. It means choosing healthier thoughts even when negative ones feel automatic. It means practicing calmness even when anger feels justified. It means walking away even when staying feels familiar. Consistency is quiet. Consistency is repetitive. Consistency is unglamorous. But consistency is what saves you. Every day you resist an old pattern, your new identity strengthens. Every day you choose peace over chaos, your future becomes lighter. Every day you practice emotional discipline, you grow more powerful. Healing is not measured by how much you cry or how deeply you reflect. It's measured by the decisions you make daily. The fourth discipline of private healing is self-honesty. This discipline is brutal because it requires confronting your own patterns without excuses. You have to admit when you contributed to your own pain. You have to acknowledge when you tolerated disrespect. You have to face the truth about your emotional triggers. You have to recognize when you lowered your standards. You have to accept the times you lied to yourself just to feel loved. Self-honesty shatters illusions, and illusions are often more comforting than truth. But illusions never heal you. They only delay your healing. When you become honest with yourself, you begin to see your life clearly. You notice which relationships were built on your inability to set boundaries. You notice which situations you stayed in because you feared change. You notice how often you betrayed yourself just to keep the peace. And this honesty pushes you into the next discipline: accountability. Accountability means taking responsibility for your healing, not blaming, not waiting, not hoping things magically improve. You stop saying, "I am this way because of what happened to me," and start saying, "I am this way because I haven't healed what happened to me." Accountability empowers you to change your inner world. It shifts you from victimhood to leadership of your own life. Another discipline of private healing is emotional detachment. Not coldness, not indifference, but the ability to observe your emotions without drowning in them. Emotional detachment is the discipline of separation, the understanding that emotions are experiences, not instructions. You can feel deeply without acting impulsively. You can hurt without harming yourself. You can care without losing control. Detachment gives you space to think, space to breathe, space to decide. It is the difference between reacting and choosing. The next discipline is boundaries. Boundaries are not walls, they are filters. You're not blocking the world out, you're protecting your inner world from unnecessary harm. Boundaries require discipline because enforcing them feels uncomfortable at first. Saying no feels mean. Standing up for yourself feels selfish. Limiting access feels rude. But boundaries are not about rejecting others. They're about choosing yourself. Private healing teaches you the discipline of walking away, not in anger, not in drama, not in panic, but in clarity. The discipline of saying, I do not belong in this environment anymore. The discipline of recognizing misalignment early. The discipline of leaving quietly. Walking away is not weakness. It is wisdom earned. Another form of discipline in private healing is emotional maintenance. Growth doesn't stick unless you maintain it. Similar to how muscles weaken without training, emotional resilience softens without practice. You must continue checking in with yourself. You must continue grounding yourself in solitude. You must continue setting boundaries. You must continue managing your energy. You must continue regulating your emotions. You must continue refusing to return to old versions of yourself. Healing is not something you achieve, it is something you sustain. And finally, the most powerful discipline of private healing is forgiveness. Not forgiveness as a gift to others, but forgiveness as freedom for yourself. Forgiveness is discipline because resentment feels easier. Holding grudges feels powerful. Blaming feels comforting. But forgiveness, true forgiveness, requires emotional maturity. It requires letting go of narratives that kept you safe. It requires acknowledging pain without letting it define you. It requires releasing people who never apologized. Forgiveness is not about them, it is about your peace. When you practice all of these disciplines, awareness, restraint, consistency, self-honesty, accountability, boundaries, detachment, maintenance, and forgiveness, you become unrecognizable to your former self. Not because you changed overnight, but because you rebuilt yourself daily. You become someone who responds with intention, someone who chooses with clarity, someone who protects their peace fiercely, someone who is no longer controlled by external chaos, someone who has mastered the art of private transformation. And this is why private healing is powerful. The world sees only the results, but you know the discipline it took to get there. Healing is discipline, and discipline is self-respect in motion. Chapter 7. Rebuilding your inner voice. There is a voice inside you that has been speaking your entire life. Sometimes it is kind, sometimes it is cruel, sometimes it is calm, sometimes it is chaotic, sometimes it empowers you, sometimes it destroys you. This voice is your constant companion, your unseen narrator, your private critic, your internal guide, your invisible enemy, your quiet protector. Your inner voice shapes the way you think, feel, and live, often without you even realizing it. And if you listen closely, you'll discover that this voice was not born fully formed. It was shaped, constructed, influenced, molded by experiences, relationships, fears, expectations, and memories. The voice you hear inside you today is not your original voice. It is the voice you learned to survive. And healing requires rebuilding it from scratch. Rebuilding your inner voice is one of the hardest parts of personal transformation because you have to challenge the thoughts that feel like truth. You have to question the beliefs you've repeated for years. You have to confront the mental narratives you've carried since childhood. You have to stop agreeing with ideas that were never yours to begin with. The first step in rebuilding your inner voice is recognizing where it came from. Much of your inner voice is inherited. You learned it from the way people spoke to you. You absorbed it from the way they reacted to you. You internalized it from the way they made you feel. If someone constantly criticized you, your inner voice learned to do the same. If someone dismissed your emotions, your inner voice learned to silence them. If someone abandoned you, your inner voice learned to question your worth. If someone belittled you, your inner voice learned to shrink your confidence. If someone rushed you, your inner voice learned to panic. If someone judged you, your inner voice learned to doubt. And if no one ever validated you, your inner voice learned to invalidate itself. This is why your inner voice can feel harsh, even in moments you need comfort. It is echoing things you heard long before you had the power to reject them. Healing requires breaking this echo and reclaiming your narrative. The second step is awareness. You cannot change a voice you don't listen to, so you begin by noticing it. Notice what your inner voice says when you make a mistake. Notice what it says when something doesn't go your way. Notice what it says when you feel insecure. Notice what it says when someone disappoints you. Notice what it says when you are alone. Notice what it says when you're trying something new. Your inner voice reveals your deepest fears: fear of failure, fear of abandonment, fear of not being enough, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being loved. When you become aware of these patterns, you're no longer controlled by them. You can finally separate you from your thoughts. The third step in rebuilding your inner voice is challenge. Healing requires confronting your inner narratives and asking, is this true? Where did this belief come from? Who taught me to think this way? Would I speak to someone I love the way I'm speaking to myself? You begin to notice how often your inner voice exaggerates, catastrophizes, or assumes the worst. You realize how much of your anxiety comes from stories your mind tells, not from reality, and slowly, you learn that thoughts are not facts. They are interpretations. You have the power to rewrite them. The fourth step is replacing harshness with compassion. This is not about becoming unrealistically positive. It is about becoming fair. Emotional healing is impossible if you continue bullying yourself for being human. You must learn to speak to yourself with the same patience, empathy, and maturity that you wish others had shown you. Compassion means telling yourself, it's okay that I made a mistake. It's okay that I feel this way. It's okay that I'm learning. It's okay that I'm healing slowly. It's okay that I'm embarrassed. It's okay that I'm not perfect. Compassion is how you rebuild trust with yourself. The fifth step is instruction. You must train your inner voice the way a mentor trains a student, not with cruelty but with clarity, not with fear but with direction, not with pressure but with self-respect. Instead of saying, I can't do this, your inner voice begins to say, I can try again. Instead of saying, I'm not enough, your inner voice begins to say, I'm growing. Instead of saying, everyone will judge me, your inner voice begins to say, I choose environments where I'm respected. Instead of saying, I always ruin things, your inner voice begins to say, I learn from every experience. Instead of saying, no one cares, your inner voice begins to say, I care about myself, and that is my foundation. This shift doesn't happen instantly. It happens slowly through repetition, reflection, and emotional discipline. The sixth step in rebuilding your inner voice is boundaries with yourself. You must learn to interrupt destructive thoughts the moment they arise, not by suppressing them, but by refusing to entertain them. When your mind says, you're failing, you answer, no, I'm evolving. When your mind says, they don't like you, you answer, I don't need universal approval. When your mind says, you'll be alone forever, you answer, I'm building a life aligned with my value. When your mind says, you're too broken to change, you answer, I'm healing every day, even in silence. This is not delusion. This is emotional leadership. The seventh step is reparenting yourself. This means offering yourself the emotional support you never received, talking to yourself gently, encouraging your efforts, validating your feelings, respecting your limits, comforting your fears, celebrating your small wins. You become the stable voice you needed growing up. You become the calm in your own storm. You become the anchor your younger self always hoped for. The eighth step is alignment. Your thoughts, choices, and behaviors begin to match your new voice. You stop participating in situations that contradict your self-respect. You stop allowing people to speak to you in ways you no longer speak to yourself. You walk away faster, you choose better, you feel lighter. Your inner voice becomes your guide, not your enemy. Finally, the ninth step in rebuilding your inner voice is silence. The kind of silence where your thoughts are no longer attacking you. The kind of silence where your mind feels like a safe place. The kind of silence where your inner world is peaceful, not painful. This silence becomes your home. This home becomes your power. This power becomes your identity. Rebuilding your inner voice is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. It's about becoming gentle with yourself. It's about becoming wise. It's about stopping the war inside so you can finally live in peace outside. The world may still criticize you. Life may still challenge you. People may still misunderstand you. But your inner voice, your most intimate companion, will stand with you, not against you. And once that voice changes, everything in your life changes with it. Chapter 8: Silence, Patience, and Emotional Strategy. There is a quiet kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't rush, and doesn't seek attention. It lives in silence. It grows in patience. It emerges through emotional strategy, a way of navigating life that turns calmness into intelligence and stillness into strength. Most people misunderstand silence. They think silence is weakness, avoidance, or surrender. They assume that if you're not speaking, you're insecure. If you're not defending yourself, you're guilty. If you're not reacting, you're indifferent. But silence, true silence, is none of those things. Silence is emotional control. Silence is mental clarity. Silence is self-respect. Silence is awareness. Silence is strategy. This chapter is about the strength you gain when you stop moving impulsively and start moving intentionally. When you stop letting emotions command your actions and start letting wisdom guide them. When you stop reacting to the world and start observing it. Because the moment you choose silence, you take your power back. Silence is not empty. Silence is information. When you stay quiet, you hear things you missed before. The tone behind someone's words, the intention behind someone's actions, the patterns behind someone's behavior. You notice who is honest and who performs, who listens and who waits to talk, who respects you and who tolerates you, who values you and who uses you. Silence reveals people's truths without you having to ask. In moments of conflict, silence becomes your emotional shield. Instead of reacting impulsively, you listen. You analyze, you evaluate. You let the noise settle so the truth can rise. Most people make their biggest mistakes when they're emotional. They speak too quickly, decide too quickly, trust too quickly, or fight too quickly. Silence saves you from that. And patience strengthens that silence. Patience is not passive. It is not procrastination. It is not waiting blindly. Patience is emotional endurance. Patience is the ability to sit with discomfort without panicking. Patience is understanding that things need time to reveal what they truly are. When you give situations time, they expose themselves. When you give people time, they show their loyalty. When you give decisions time, clarity surfaces. When you give emotions time, intensity fades. When you give yourself time, growth becomes visible. Most emotional damage comes from impatience, saying things you later regret, staying in places you should have left, trusting people too early, forcing answers before they're ready. Patience interrupts the urgency created by fear, insecurity, or impulse. And when silence and patience work together, they create emotional strategy. Emotional strategy is not manipulation. It is self-protection. It is the ability to respond from strength, not weakness. It means choosing the right time to speak, the right way to act, the right moment to withdraw, the right decision to make. It means moving intelligently, not emotionally. It means observing before acting. It means conserving energy for what truly matters. Emotional strategy begins with one principle. Not every reaction deserves your energy. Not every conflict deserves your participation. Not every trigger deserves your attention. When you stop giving everything access to your emotional system, your peace expands. You begin responding with clarity instead of chaos. You begin choosing outcomes instead of defending impulses. You begin preserving your power instead of scattering it. For many people, silence feels uncomfortable because it forces them to face their true emotions. It forces them to pause instead of distract themselves. It forces them to stand inside their discomfort without numbing it. But that discomfort is where emotional intelligence grows. Silence teaches you what triggers you and why. Patience teaches you how to regulate that trigger. Strategy teaches you how to respond in a way that strengthens, not weakens, your future. There is something profound that happens when you start using silence intentionally. You no longer reveal your thoughts too quickly. You no longer expose your vulnerabilities recklessly. You no longer explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You no longer rush to fill awkward moments. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You no longer let pressure dictate your words. You begin speaking less but meaning more. You begin acting slower but choosing better. You begin giving less energy but investing it wisely. This is emotional strategy, conserving your power until it's needed and then using it effectively. Patience, too, becomes your emotional armor. You begin letting things unfold naturally. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop begging for closure. You stop rushing healing. You stop chasing answers. You stop demanding certainty. Life becomes less of a fight and more of a flow. Patience teaches you that what is meant for you will not be rushed, and what isn't meant for you will not stay, even if you force it. Many of your disappointments were simply situations you tried to accelerate. Many of your heartbreaks were situations you tried to preserve. Many of your regrets were moments you reacted too fast. Patience is not slow. It is strategic. It protects you from your own urgency. It guides you toward the decisions your future self will thank you for. Silence and patience also teach you the power of emotional distance. Not avoidance, not shutting down, but stepping back far enough to understand what is really happening. Emotional distance reveals truth. Who respects your absence? Who responds to your boundaries? Who adjusts when you change? Who remains loyal without attention? Who values you beyond their convenience? When you step back, you stop viewing situations through emotion and start viewing them through clarity. You stop negotiating with red flags. You stop accepting behavior that drains your peace. You stop tolerating what chips away at your self-respect. And slowly, you begin making decisions that reflect love for yourself. Silence also gives your intuition space to speak. Your intuition is often drowned out by noise, opinions, fears, memories, expectations. When you quiet the world, your inner voice finally becomes audible. You begin noticing red flags sooner. You begin sensing manipulation earlier. You begin trusting your feelings without needing proof. Silence sharpens intuition. Patience protects it. Strategy applies it. Together, these three build emotional mastery. People may not understand this version of you. They may think you've become too quiet, too selective, too slow to respond, too private, too calm. They may say you've changed, and they'll be right. You've changed from reactive to intentional, from impulsive to strategic, from emotional to grounded, from loud to powerful, from seeking validation to seeking clarity. As your silence deepens, your presence strengthens. As your patience expands, your peace grows. As your strategy sharpens, your life simplifies. And suddenly you're no longer controlled by your emotions. You're guided by them. You're no longer scared of your anger. You understand it. You're no longer overwhelmed by your sadness. You navigate it. You're no longer triggered by old wounds. You regulate them. You're no longer drained by difficult people. You outgrow them. Your silence becomes your language. Your patience becomes your pace. Your strategy becomes your identity. This is emotional mastery, healing not only your heart but the way you move through the world. In your silence, you grow. In your patience, you evolve. In your strategy, you rise. And by the time the world notices, it's already too late for anyone to stop your transformation. Because now, your power is internal, anchored, protected, and unshakable. Chapter 9. Energy Before Emotion. Most people believe their emotions control their life. They think sadness comes out of nowhere. They think anger appears suddenly. They think anxiety is purely mental. They think overthinking is a personality trait. They think irritability is just who they are. But emotions don't appear randomly. They follow energy. Your emotional state is almost always a reflection of your energetic state. When your energy is low, your emotions become unstable. When your energy is scattered, your mind becomes chaotic. When your energy is depleted, your heart becomes vulnerable. When your energy is mismanaged, your peace becomes fragile. This is why emotional healing isn't just about understanding your feelings. It's about regulating the energy that creates them. Everything you feel, fear, anger, insecurity, sadness, hope, confidence, peace, starts with your internal energy system. And this energy is shaped by 5 forces: your body, your environment, your habits, your boundaries, your attention. When these 5 are unbalanced, your emotions become unpredictable. But when these 5 are aligned, your emotions become manageable, steady, and grounded. This chapter is about recognizing that your emotional stability cannot exist without energetic stability. You cannot calm your emotions if your energy is exhausted. You cannot think clearly if your mind is overloaded. You cannot make wise decisions if your body is drained. You cannot protect your peace if your environment is chaotic. You cannot grow emotionally if your habits undermine you. You cannot feel whole if your energy leaks everywhere. Your energy is the foundation. Your emotions are the symptoms. Fix the energy and the emotions begin to fix themselves. The body-energy connection. Your body and emotions are not separate worlds. They constantly influence each other. When your body is tired, malnourished, dehydrated, or overstimulated, your emotions react instantly. Lack of sleep makes your judgment foggy. Poor diet lowers your resilience. Inactivity stagnates your motivation. Tension in the body intensifies overthinking. Chronic stress collapses your emotional immunity. Excessive stimulation destroys your ability to stay calm. Most people try to solve emotional problems with mental effort alone, ignoring the physical triggers beneath them. You can't outthink exhaustion. You can't meditate your way out of dehydration. You can't fight anxiety while pumping your body with caffeine, chaos, and no rest. You can't build emotional strength with a body that is constantly in survival mode. Your physical state determines the emotional resources you have available. A strong body creates a strong foundation for emotional stability. A weak body restricts your emotional bandwidth. This is why healing requires returning to basics. Eat food that gives you steady energy, not spikes and crashes. Drink water. Your brain literally cannot function without it. Move your body. Stagnant energy becomes stagnant emotion. Sleep, not just hours, but quality. Rest, not just lying down, but disconnecting. People underestimate how much emotional chaos is actually energetic chaos, fed by physical neglect. Environment, the silent emotional trigger. Your environment is shaping your emotions every second. Clutter increases anxiety. Noise increases irritability. Crowds drain sensitive energy. Toxic environments breed insecurity and stress. Chaotic spaces reduce internal calm. You've experienced this. A messy room makes your mind feel heavier. A chaotic workplace makes your heart beat faster. A tense home makes you shrink emotionally. A peaceful environment, however, brings instant relaxation, even without effort. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your surroundings for safety or threat. This means your emotions respond not only to what you think, but to where you are. Most people overlook this. They blame themselves for being anxious, sad, or overwhelmed without realizing their environment is the true cause. So ask yourself, who in your environment drains your energy? Who constantly takes but never returns? Who brings stress instead of peace? Which spaces make your spirit contract? Which environments make your breathing shallow? Which interactions leave you mentally tired? Protecting your energy means reshaping your environment or reshaping your access to it. Peaceful environments create peaceful people. Chaotic environments create chaotic emotions. Your emotions are not failing you. Your environment is suffocating you. Habits that drain or refuel your energy. Your habits determine the direction of your energy every day. Some habits nourish you: reading, rest, exercise, silence, healthy routines, hydration, intentional solitude, breathing deeply, managing your focus. Other habits silently destroy you: scrolling endlessly, late-night overstimulation, living in constant noise, multitasking, overcommitting, skipping meals, holding your breath without realizing, not giving yourself time to reset. Every habit either leaks energy or replenishes it. When your habits drain you daily, your emotions become unpredictable. You feel irritated over small things. You become sensitive to minor issues. You lose patience fast. You feel mentally heavy. You feel emotionally overwhelmed. People say they have anger issues, trust issues, overthinking issues, but often these issues are energetic, rooted in exhaustion, imbalance, overstimulation, and mental fatigue. You don't need to completely overhaul your habits. You just need to build enough small, healthy habits that your energy begins to stabilize. Healing doesn't require huge changes. It requires consistent alignment. Energy leaks through poor boundaries. There is no faster way to lose emotional strength than weak boundaries. When you lack boundaries, you say yes when you feel no. You absorb other people's emotions. You take responsibility for others' comfort. You feel guilty for doing what's best for you. You let people disrespect your time. You tolerate behavior that drains you. You overextend yourself. You lose yourself. People talk about emotional burnout, but the truth is, burnout is mostly boundary burnout. Your energy is leaking through every hole you refuse to close. When you start setting boundaries, your energy stops escaping, and your emotions stop collapsing. Boundaries protect your energy by limiting access to your emotional resources, filtering out people who drain you, preventing overstimulation, creating emotional safety, conserving strength for what actually matters. Setting boundaries is not about control, it's about survival. Because without boundaries, there is no peace, and without peace, there is no emotional healing. Attention, the currency of your energy. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. This is not a slogan, it is psychological truth. If you focus on fear, your energy becomes anxious. If you focus on resentment, your energy becomes heavy. If you focus on comparison, your energy becomes insecure. If you focus on the past, your energy becomes stuck. If you focus on distractions, your energy becomes scattered. If you focus on drama, your energy becomes exhausted. Your attention is the steering wheel of your emotional car. You cannot expect to feel peaceful while your attention is trapped in chaos. This is why one of the greatest skills in emotional maturity is attention discipline, learning to redirect your focus from what drains you to what anchors you. You cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always control what you give your attention to. Your energy follows your focus. Your emotions follow your energy. Your life follows your emotions. Change your focus and everything downstream begins to shift. Stop trying to manage emotions. Manage energy. The breakthrough in healing happens when you stop trying to fix your emotions and instead fix the conditions that create them. A regulated nervous system produces regulated emotions. A nourished body produces stable emotions. A peaceful environment produces calm emotions. Healthy boundaries produce empowered emotions. Disciplined attention produces controlled emotions. You don't need to fight your emotions. You need to align your energy. Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. When your energy is imbalanced, your emotions alert you. Overthinking is a sign of mental overload. Irritation is a sign of emotional burnout. Anxiety is a sign of overstimulation. Sadness is a sign of emotional depletion. Numbness is a sign of energetic collapse. Fix the energy and the emotion begins to release. Reclaiming your energy. Reclaiming your emotions. Imagine your emotional strength like a battery. Some people drain it, some environments drain it, some habits drain it, some memories drain it, some thoughts drain it. But when you begin reclaiming your energy, you stop reacting automatically. You stop absorbing people's moods. You stop internalizing judgment. You stop falling into emotional spirals. You stop giving away your peace. When your energy stabilizes, your emotions become easier to understand, calmer to navigate, and quicker to regulate. People will notice the shift long before you announce it. You will speak slower. You will move with intention. You will think more clearly. You will feel grounded. You will radiate calm strength. You will no longer be shaken by small things. And the best part, you will no longer confuse emotional chaos with personal failure because you will finally understand its true source. Energy comes first. Emotions follow. Heal your energy and your emotional life transforms silently, deeply, and permanently. Chapter 10. Boundaries. Guarding your inner sanctuary. There comes a moment in every healing journey when you realize something profound. You were never meant to let the whole world enter your inner world. You were never meant to be emotionally available to everything and everyone. You were never meant to absorb every feeling, every request, every expectation, every opinion. Your inner world, your mind, your energy, your emotions, your peace is a sanctuary. And sanctuaries are not open to the public. Sanctuaries have doors. Sanctuaries have limits. Sanctuaries have rules. Sanctuaries have silence. Sanctuaries have guardians. In your life, you are that guardian. But the problem is, most people never learned how to guard anything internally. They learned how to attach, how to please, how to endure, how to give, how to explain, how to adjust, how to survive. But they never learned how to protect. This chapter is about boundaries, the invisible lines that shield your peace, secure your wounds, and preserve your healing. Boundaries are not walls. Walls block connection. Boundaries guide connection. Walls push people out. Boundaries filter people in. Walls come from fear. Boundaries come from self-respect. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about controlling access to you. They are the quiet rules that say, this behavior is welcomed. This behavior is not. You may come closer. You must stay back. I will engage with this. I will not participate in that. And the moment you begin enforcing boundaries, your life starts changing in ways you didn't expect. Why boundaries feel so difficult? Boundaries feel uncomfortable because you were conditioned to avoid discomfort. You were raised to be polite, not honest, to be agreeable, not protected, to be helpful, not healthy, to keep the peace externally, even if it meant destroying the peace internally. Many people fear setting boundaries because they don't want to disappoint others. They don't want to seem rude. They don't want to create conflict. They don't want to be misunderstood. They don't want to lose relationships. They don't want to be judged. But here is the truth healing teaches you. If a boundary destroys a relationship, the relationship was already unhealthy. Healthy people respect limits. Healthy relationships adapt. Healthy connections adjust. Healthy environments understand. Boundaries only threaten those who benefited from your lack of them. So, boundaries are self-respect in action. You can say you love yourself. You can say you want peace. You can say you are healing. But none of it becomes real until you protect yourself with boundaries. Self-respect is not a feeling. It is a behavior, a decision, a line drawn, a standard upheld. You cannot have high self-worth with low boundaries. You cannot grow emotionally while tolerating emotional damage. You cannot heal deeply while staying connected to what hurt you. You cannot protect your peace without protecting your access points. Boundaries are self-love turning into self-protection. There are 4 types of boundaries you must master. 1. Emotional boundaries. These protect your feelings from being manipulated, dismissed, or drained. Emotional boundaries sound like, I'm not responsible for fixing others. I won't absorb your moods. I don't have the capacity for this conversation right now. I will not explain myself repeatedly. I choose to walk away instead of arguing. Without emotional boundaries, you become a sponge for the world's chaos. With emotional boundaries, you remain centered, even in chaos. 2. Time boundaries. Your time is your life. Your time is your energy. Your time is your emotional capacity. Time boundaries sound like, I can't make it today. I'm unavailable after this hour. I need rest before making more plans. I won't respond instantly to every message. Without time boundaries, you live in exhaustion. With them, you live in alignment. 3. Energy boundaries. These protect your mental bandwidth and emotional strength. Energy boundaries sound like, this conversation is draining. I'm stepping back. I need space to recharge. I can't engage in constant negativity. I will not participate in drama. Without energy boundaries, you burn out. With energy boundaries, you rebuild. 4. Access boundaries. These determine who gets near you and how close. Access boundaries sound like, you are not entitled to my vulnerability. Not everyone gets to know my business. I'm limiting our communication. I'm choosing to keep distance for my well-being. Without access boundaries, anyone can reach you. With them, you choose who deserves proximity. Boundaries do not require explanation. One of the greatest signs of emotional growth is learning to set boundaries without over-explaining them. You don't need to justify your no. You don't need to write long paragraphs. You don't need to plead your case. You don't need to convince anyone. Boundaries are statements, not debates. Decisions, not discussions. Choices, not negotiations. A boundary becomes weak the moment you explain it to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Your peace is not a public project. It is a private priority. Silence is a boundary too. You don't always need to confront. You don't always need to argue. You don't always need to clarify. You don't always need to announce your limits. Sometimes distance is the boundary. Sometimes silence is the boundary. Sometimes reduced access is the boundary. Sometimes doing less is the boundary. And these are often the most powerful ones because they are rooted in self-control, not reaction. Silence protects you from unnecessary battles. Distance protects you from emotional exhaustion. Reduced access protects your healing. Low interaction protects your peace. Boundaries do not always require words, just behavior. People will react, and that's part of the process. When you begin setting boundaries, the world does not applaud. People may or get offended. test your limits, call you difficult, say you've changed, try to guilt you, try to manipulate you, try to pull you back into old patterns. Their reaction is not your responsibility. Your healing is. Remember this truth. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always see boundaries as hostility. But that is their story, not yours. Boundaries bring clarity. When you start setting boundaries, you suddenly see who is aligned with you and who isn't. People who love you adjust. People who respect you honor your limits. People who value you try to understand. People who care for you grow with you. People who don't, they distance themselves. They get upset. They pull away. They disappear. And that is the clarity you needed. Boundaries do not lose you, people. Boundaries reveal which people were never meant for your future. Boundaries train people how to treat you. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you teach people to ignore your needs. Every time you tolerate disrespect, you teach them your silence is permission. Every time you overextend, you teach them your energy is unlimited. Every time you avoid confrontation, you teach them your peace is negotiable. People are not mind readers. Your silence teaches them just as much as your words. Boundaries are how you teach the world. My peace is not up for negotiation. My worth is not optional. My time is not free. My energy is not cheap. My heart is not a playground. My mind is not for rent. You are not hard to love. You are easy to use. Boundaries help you understand this truth. You were not difficult. You were generous. You were not cold. You were giving. You were not dramatic. You were expressive. You were not needy. You were selfless. But when generosity is exploited, giving turns into depletion. When selflessness is abused, compassion becomes exhaustion. Boundaries restore balance. Boundaries protect your kindness. Boundaries preserve your softness. Boundaries guard your empathy. Boundaries ensure you can still love without losing yourself. When you guard your inner sanctuary, life changes. You stop tolerating chaos. You stop explaining your value. You stop negotiating with disrespect. You stop lowering your standards. You stop absorbing others' emotional mess. You stop giving unlimited access to limited people. You start loving yourself deeply. You start choosing peace over popularity. You start trusting your intuition. You start valuing your time. You start prioritizing your energy. You start attracting emotionally mature connections. You start thriving in silence. Boundaries don't push people away. They protect the version of you that you are becoming. They are the doorway between your old life and your new one. And as you guard your inner sanctuary, you step into a reality where peace is normal, calm is daily, and emotional stability is your natural state. This is not selfishness. This is self-preservation. This is healing in motion. This is the quiet power of boundaries. Chapter 11. Slow healing, strong becoming. Healing is rarely fast. It is rarely linear. It is rarely dramatic. It is rarely visible. Most of the time, healing looks slow, so slow that you question whether anything is changing at all. You wake up with the same fears. You feel the same heaviness. You still think of the same memories. You still feel the same loneliness. You still catch yourself repeating old patterns. You still wonder if the progress you're making is even real. But slow healing does not mean weak healing. Slow healing means deep healing. Slow healing means honest healing. Slow healing means sustained healing. Slow healing means you're not rushing your becoming. You're rebuilding it properly. Our culture worships speed, fast success, fast transformation, fast confidence, fast recovery, fast emotional reset. But real healing doesn't obey deadlines. Your heart doesn't operate on a schedule. Your nervous system doesn't respond to pressure. Your trauma doesn't dissolve because you want it gone quickly. Your wounds don't close just because you're tired of carrying them. Healing takes the time that it takes, not a minute less. Slow healing is not a setback. It is a signal that you're finally doing the work thoroughly instead of superficially. It means you're not covering wounds, you're cleansing them. You're not suppressing emotions, you're understanding them. You're not rushing into the next version of yourself. You're carefully building it. And the truth is this: anything that grows slowly grows stronger. Trees that grow slowly develop harder wood. Muscles built slowly become more resilient. Relationships that grow slowly form deeper roots. Wisdom that grows slowly leaves permanent impact. Your healing is no different. Slow healing is not a delay, it is depth. Why healing feels slow? Because you're unlearning years, sometimes decades of emotional conditioning. You're breaking patterns that once kept you safe. You're dissolving habits that you built for survival. You're rewriting beliefs implanted in childhood. You're confronting wounds you spent years avoiding. You're learning how to regulate emotions that used to overwhelm you. This takes time. This requires patience. This requires compassion. This requires repetition. You cannot expect overnight transformation when you carried emotional burdens for years. Healing is not magic, it is maintenance. It is discipline, awareness, and consistency. And consistency grows slowly. Healing feels slow when you're doing it right. Because you are not skipping steps, because you are not pretending, because you are not rushing, because you are not numbing, because you are not avoiding. You are facing, you are understanding, you are releasing, you are rebuilding. And rebuilding the inner world takes longer than repairing anything external. The illusion of setbacks. One of the hardest parts of slow healing is the illusion of going backward. You have a good day, a good week, or even a good month. And then suddenly, without warning, a wave of sadness hits. Anxiety rises, old memories resurface, an empty feeling returns. A trigger surprises you. Tears come out of nowhere. And you think, I'm back where I started. I'm not making progress. I'm failing at healing. But none of that is true. You are not going backward. You are revisiting layers that were waiting for you to become strong enough to face them. Healing happens in layers, not in straight lines. Every layer you peel back brings a deeper understanding. Every wave you survive increases your resilience. Every emotion you process builds internal strength. What feels like a setback is actually a deeper layer emerging, an old wound loosening, a pattern breaking, a memory releasing, a belief dissolving, a part of you resurfacing for closure. You're not failing, you're progressing into deeper territories of your healing. You're becoming stronger than your old triggers, stronger than your old reactions, stronger than your old wounds, slowly, quietly, steadily. Emotional patience is emotional maturity. The strongest people in the world are not those who heal the fastest. They are the ones who remain committed to healing even when it feels slow, confusing, or uncomfortable. Healing requires emotional patience. Patience with your thoughts, patience with your feelings, patience with your triggers, patience with your body, patience with your timing, patience with your process. You cannot rush emotional evolution. You must allow understanding to replace suppression. You must allow clarity to replace confusion. You must allow calmness to replace chaos. You must allow truth to replace illusion. Patience doesn't mean being passive. It means being persistent. Persistence with your boundaries. Persistence with your self-respect. Persistence with your inner work. Persistence with regulating your emotions. Persistence with choosing peace every day. Slow healing is not stagnant healing. It is stable healing. The power of small changes. People expect healing to be dramatic, but real healing is subtle. It shows up in small shifts, quiet realizations and tiny decisions that accumulate over time. Healing looks like you didn't respond to that message. You didn't explain yourself. You didn't react out of anger. You didn't chase closure. You didn't tolerate disrespect. You didn't betray your intuition. You didn't prioritize someone else over your peace. You didn't fall into the same emotional hole. You didn't lose yourself the way you used to. Small changes create big becoming. Slow healing teaches you that even the smallest shift matters because it leads to a new pattern, and new patterns lead to new lives, becoming the future version of you. Every day you choose healing, no matter how slow, it shapes the person you are becoming. You become someone who trusts themselves, someone who doesn't panic under pressure, someone who doesn't react impulsively, someone who removes themselves from chaos, someone who protects their energy, someone who honors their boundaries, someone who sees through manipulation, someone who handles triggers with awareness, someone who chooses peace on purpose, someone who knows when to walk away, someone who lives with emotional authority. This version of you grows slowly because strength built in silence becomes strength built for life. You're not just healing from what happened to you, you're becoming someone it can never break again. And that becoming is worth every slow hour, every quiet step, every patient day. Slow healing prepares you for a bigger life. There is a reason your healing feels slow. You are being prepared for a life much larger than your past. A life where your decisions come from clarity, not fear. Your relationships come from alignment, not loneliness. Your actions come from grounding, not impulsivity. Your self-worth comes from within, not from others. Your emotions serve you, not sabotage you. You're not becoming stronger just to feel better. You're becoming stronger to build a future that your past self could only dream about. The life you are growing into requires emotional stability. Stability requires healing. Healing requires depth. Depth requires time. This is why slow healing is not an inconvenience, it is an investment. An investment into the future you, the wiser you, the calmer you, the grounded you, the resilient you, the peaceful you. Trust the pace of your becoming. You may feel like you're behind. You may feel like you're taking too long. You may feel like others are healing faster. You may feel like your progress is invisible. But healing is not a race, it is a rising. Some people rise fast, some people rise slowly. But all rising is powerful. Trust your pace, trust your growth, trust your timing, trust your becoming. Because slow healing creates strong becoming, and strong becoming creates a life filled with peace, depth, stability, and emotional mastery. You are not late, you are not broken, you are not failing. You are healing, slowly, deeply, permanently. Chapter 12. Shining without announcing it. There comes a moment in your healing journey when you finally realize you don't need to be seen to be significant. You don't need to be loud to be powerful. You don't need to announce your transformation for it to be real. You don't need to prove your growth for it to be valid. When healing is genuine, your life begins to shift quietly, so quietly that you yourself don't notice it at first. Your reactions change, your energy changes, your choices change, your presence changes, and one day, without any big announcement, without any dramatic performance, people simply feel it. You have become someone else. Not loudly, not publicly, but profoundly. This chapter is about shining in silence, about becoming someone whose growth speaks louder than their words ever could. Because real healing does not need an audience. It needs consistency, it needs discipline, it needs privacy, it needs time. And when those pieces come together, your shine becomes inevitable. The world equates visibility with value. You don't. Modern life is obsessed with visibility. People want to be seen healing, seen improving, seen succeeding, seen winning, seen glowing up, seen changing. But visibility is not the same as value. Visibility is not the same as growth. Visibility is not the same as authenticity. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are not loud about their evolution. They are not posting every achievement. They are not updating everyone about their progress. They are not seeking validation for their pain or their victories. The strongest people are the quiet ones, the ones who show up day after day without applause, the ones who rise without witnesses, the ones who choose themselves even when no one is watching, the ones who rebuild their identity in silence and let the results reveal themselves. You don't need to announce your healing. Healing becomes visible on its own. In the way you speak, in the way you move, in the way you carry yourself, in the way you say no, in the way you choose peace, in the way you step back from what drains you, in the way you walk away faster, in the way you breathe calmer, in the way your energy feels heavier, more grounded, more stable. Your shine is internal long before it becomes external. Art, people notice your growth by how you react. You don't need to tell people you've changed. Your reactions tell them. Someone tries to provoke you, but you stay calm. Someone tests your boundaries, but you don't collapse. Someone disappears, but you don't chase. Someone gossips about you, but you don't defend. Someone disrespects you, but you walk away. Someone triggers you, but you respond with awareness. This is shining without announcing it. Your silence becomes strength. Your restraint becomes wisdom. Your calmness becomes intimidating. Your presence becomes powerful. Your detachment becomes undeniable. You're not being quiet because you're weak. You're quiet because you're healed. You're not being distant because you're cold. You're distant because you're selective. You're not being still because you're stuck. You're still because you're strategic. Your growth becomes obvious in the way you no longer give your energy to anything unworthy. The beauty of private evolution. Private evolution is sacred because it allows you to grow without interruption. When you keep your healing private, no one rushes you, no one questions you, no one doubts you, no one interrupts you, no one influences your choices, no one dampens your motivation, no one uses your vulnerability against you. You protect your progress by keeping it close. You protect your transformation by staying silent. You protect your evolution by moving quietly. This is not secrecy. This is self-respect. People cannot sabotage what they cannot see. People cannot ruin what they do not have access to. People cannot manipulate what they cannot reach. People cannot criticize what they do not know. Your silence is not avoidance, it is protection. Your privacy is not isolation, it is intention. Your quietness is not emptiness, it is growth. Becoming a person who doesn't need validation. One of the greatest signs of emotional maturity is when you stop needing validation from anyone. Not from friends, not from family, not from relationships, not from society, not from the world. Validation becomes internal. Approval becomes private, confidence becomes quiet, self-worth becomes intrinsic. You stop posting everything because you no longer need external confirmation that you're healing. You stop explaining everything because your choices no longer require the world's permission. You stop oversharing because your boundaries are finally protecting your inner world. You stop seeking reassurance because you trust your own voice. Shining silently means you know your value even when no one is applauding it. Success built in silence lasts longer. There are two kinds of growth. Growth built for display and growth built for permanence. The first one is loud, the second is quiet. The first one fades, the second one endures. Success built for attention doesn't last because it relies on external energy, likes, praise, validation, support. When that energy disappears, the foundation collapses. But success built in silence is rooted in internal stability, discipline, habits, clarity, consistency. It cannot be taken away because it wasn't given by anyone else. This is why silent growth creates loud results. You've built resilience privately. You've trained discipline privately. You've healed patterns privately. You've strengthened boundaries privately. You've regulated emotions privately. Then one day the world sees the outcome and calls it overnight success. But you know the truth. It took nights no one witnessed and mornings no one celebrated. Your shine isn't an accident, it's a build. Silence doesn't mean invisible, it means unbothered. The more you heal, the less you care about attention. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to defend anything. You don't need to argue anything. You don't need to display anything. You begin choosing conversations that nourish you, connections that respect you, spaces that ground you, routines that strengthen you, thoughts that guide you, people who align with you. Your silence stops coming from insecurity. It begins coming from selectivity. And this is where your shine becomes undeniable. Your peace becomes your glow. Your calmness becomes your charisma. Your emotional composure becomes your magnetism. You shine differently when you're healed, not brighter, but deeper. The right people will feel your shine without you forcing it. You don't have to announce your worth. People who are aligned with you will sense it immediately. People who respect themselves will respect your growth. People who are emotionally mature will appreciate your boundaries. People who value peace will recognize your calm. You do not need to impress anyone. You only need to express your truth through your being. The wrong people won't understand your silence. The right people will connect with it. Your shine is not for everyone, and that is the beauty of it. Becoming a quiet force. A quiet force is someone who moves with intention, speaks with purpose, acts with clarity, sets boundaries with confidence, heals privately, thinks independently, loves deeply but selectively, protects their inner world fiercely, rises without demanding attention, shines without asking for validation. A quiet force does not chase recognition. They attract respect. They don't need applause. They embody self-worth. They don't need to dominate. They influence through presence. This is who you become when you heal deeply and privately. The world will see it, just not before you do. At first, your shine is something only you feel. Then it becomes something you express. Then it becomes something you embody. And eventually, it becomes something impossible to ignore. People will notice. You no longer react the way you used to. You no longer engage in drama. You no longer tolerate disrespect. You no longer shrink yourself. You no longer chase approval. You no longer explain your decisions. You no longer cling to what is misaligned. You no longer live in emotional survival. You move differently. You choose differently. You speak differently. You exist differently. And your silence becomes powerful. Your presence becomes undeniable. Your healing becomes visible without ever being announced. Because you have become someone who shines quietly, calmly, confidently. And that is the most powerful kind of shine. Outro final reflection. You've walked through silence, discipline, boundaries, solitude, emotional strategy, and private evolution. You've peeled back layers of yourself that once felt too heavy to face. You've discovered the power that comes from healing quietly, growing slowly, and protecting your inner world with intention. Now, as this audiobook comes to a close, I want you to recognize something important. Your journey is not ending here. It is beginning. Because emotional mastery isn't a destination. It's a way of living. It's a mindset, a discipline, a daily choice. And the version of you who started this audiobook is not the same person who is listening right now. You're more aware, more grounded, more intentional, more aligned, more peaceful. You've learned that healing is not what the world makes it seem. It's not flashy, it's not loud, it's not public, it's not instant. Healing is deeply personal, deeply private, deeply transformative. It happens in the quiet moments, the moments no one else sees. Healing is you choosing silence instead of reacting. Healing is you choosing boundaries instead of burnout. Healing is you choosing solitude instead of self-betrayal. Healing is you choosing patience instead of panic. Healing is you choosing energy alignment instead of emotional chaos. Healing is you choosing yourself, consistently, intentionally, unapologetically. You've learned that not everyone deserves access to your healing. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves your presence. Not everyone deserves your peace. And that realization alone can change your entire life. Because healing privately doesn't mean hiding. It means protecting the sacred work happening within you. It means giving your growth the silence it needs to take root. It means giving your transformation time to unfold naturally, without pressure, without judgment, without fear. You've learned that the quietest growth creates the loudest results, that strength built slowly becomes strength built forever, that rising silently creates a life built on confidence, not performance, that becoming emotionally grounded transforms everything you touch. You've learned to trust the pace of your becoming, to honor your timing, to soften into your truth, to sit with your emotions without drowning, to allow yourself to evolve without announcing it. You've discovered the beauty of shining in silence, of letting your life speak for you, letting your choices reflect your standards, letting your boundaries reveal your self-respect, letting your calmness carry your authority. You don't need noise to prove your growth. You don't need validation to confirm it. You don't need attention to sustain it. You simply need commitment to yourself, to your peace, to the person you are becoming. And now, as you leave this audiobook, remember this. Peace is not passive. It is power restrained. Healing is not weakness. It is strength refined. Silence is not emptiness. It is strategy. Detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. Boundaries are not rejection. They are self-respect. Slow healing is not failure, it is depth. Shining quietly is not hiding, it is mastery. Your life from this point onward will be shaped by the choices you make in private, the moments where no one is watching, where you rely on your discipline, where you trust your intuition, where you honor your truth. And if this audiobook helped you grow, helped you see yourself differently, or helped you take even one step closer to inner peace, then let this be your reminder. You are becoming someone extraordinary silently, steadily, powerfully. And the world will see it in time. They will see the calm. They will see the boundaries. They will see the self-respect. They will see the glow. They will see the transformation. But you will feel it first. You already do. Thank you for listening. If this audiobook supported your journey, subscribe to Evoke Audiobooks for new audiobooks every week. Your healing is your strength. Your silence is your power. Your peace is your home.